Welcome to another On Deck Baseball gameplay tutorial video. Today we're going to be utilizing the On Deck Baseball Pro system, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the in-game fatigue for the pitchers. First I'm going to kind of go over a little bit of the different mechanics that are involved in the in-game fatigue, and then we're going to actually go through a simulated game to try and bring up some of these mechanics without actually rolling out an entire game. So what we're looking at today is going to be a combination of a couple of different mechanics for the in-game fatigue. We're going to be looking at the stamina, the endurance, and the poise. The stamina is going to dictate how many innings the starting pitcher, or a relief pitcher for that matter, can go before they have to start rolling on the fatigue chart. If I flip this over, you'll notice that the fatigue chart is right here. So if Steve Carlton, who we'll be using for this exercise, if he pitches his 5 innings, going into the 6th inning, he will have to roll on his 1 inning past the max innings for his card, which is 5. So going into the 6th inning, he'll have to roll on a 1 inning column. If you roll a NC, the light blue colored cell, there will be no change to his pitching numbers. Okay, and we're going to be doing this with the all-star level, so we're going to be using the splits between the lefty and righty batters. So if he has no change, his -5 against left-handed batters and his -4 against right-handed batters will stay. If we roll it 2, which comes out to a -1 against his pitching ability is going to go down to a -4 against left-handed batters and a -3 against right-handed batters. Now, Steve Carlton has a very good combination of stamina and endurance, so you'll notice that his chart has a lot of blue NCs for no change, but he does have a -2 down here on the 8th result in this column. So if he was to roll a -2, his rating would go down to a -3, -2, and this goes up against a batter's card for the confrontation roll. Now, as you increase throughout the game, if he was to go into the 7th inning, you would roll on the 2 innings past his max innings, and same thing for the 8th, going into the 3rd inning past his max innings. Now, it does go through 5 innings. If you do happen to have the pitcher go into extra innings, you get some really good rolls. Going into past the 9th inning, if you don't have any more columns here, you just continuously roll on the 5 innings past the max innings. Now, during the game, if he gives up a cumulative of 3 runs, every 3 runs cumulatively, you're going to have to roll on his poise chart. Steve Carlton's poise is a 4, which means he doesn't get rattled very easily giving up 3 runs, but every 3 runs you will have to roll on his poise chart. To do that, you're going to be rolling on the poise chart sad face, and if he rolls a -1, again, that's going to hit his pitching rating. So a -1 would bring it down to a -4, -3. You do that every 3 runs he gives up. That is not 3 runs per inning. That is cumulatively throughout the game. So he rolls, if he gives up 1 run in the 1st and 2 runs in the 2nd, then you would roll on the poise. If he gives up another 3 runs in the 3rd inning, you would roll on the poise again on the sad face column. That said, some of them do give increases. So if Steve Carlton pitches 2 consecutive 1, 2, 3 innings, you get to roll on the happy face column of the poise chart. This would increase his ability. So if he rolls after doing 2 consecutive 1, 2, 3 innings, if he rolls a 1, you get to add 1 to his ability, which would give him a -6, -5. Now, we only do that on this chart after the first 2 consecutive innings. If he goes a 3rd consecutive 1, 2, 3 inning, he would automatically get that increase. Pitchers also get an automatic increase for striking out the side. So if he strikes out 3 consecutive batters, no walks or anything in the inning, only 3 batters that inning, and strikes out all 3, he would automatically get an increase, and he would go to -6, -5 as well. So that is a little bit of how the cards work. I do have a score sheet here put together for the 1970 Baltimore American League Ball Club. We are actually not going to use the cards because we're just going to kind of go through the lineup in a simulated fashion. This particular score sheet actually is available for download under the user created content tab on the website. It does have spots for all of the batter ratings. That we could have the fielding ratings, speed, jump, and on-base instincts all there. It has great spots for the fatigue points accumulation during the game and pitcher infield, as well as the ratings for the pitcher. I'm going to go ahead and, even though this is Baltimore's side of the score sheet, I'm going to go ahead and write Carlton in. That way we can kind of keep track on what we're doing with Carlton as we move forward through this game. Now, we're not going to be playing out any of the other situations other than just simulating a few at-bats just kind of off the top of my head. And that way we kind of get through some of these different mechanics. So, Steve Carlton will be pitching against the 1970 Baltimore Ball Club. And we're going to go ahead and say that Buford, well, we'll say he flew out to center. We'll say Blair drew a walk. And Powell came up and hit a massive home run. 2 RBIs. And Baltimore is up 2-0, top of the first. Robinson will strike out, and Brooks Robinson will pop out to third. Going into the second inning, obviously nothing needs to be done there. There's only 2 runs scored in the inning, so we don't need to roll on the poise chart. He hasn't reached his 5 innings max, so we don't have to roll on the fatigue chart there. Going into the second inning, we'll say that Salmon struck out. Hendricks drew a walk, and Davey Johnson, we'll say he hit a 2-run shot for 2 RBIs, and Baltimore now has 4 runs. And before we get into that next at-bat, we now need to roll on his poise chart. So we're going to go ahead and roll on the sad face poise chart, 1 die, and we'll get the result off of that. We roll a 6. He has no change, so I'm going to put down no change on his fatigue chart there. Now, if we did roll a -1, that would change his abilities. Bellinger will say ground out to short, and Buford went 3U. That's going to bring us into the third inning. We'll go ahead and say that Blair struck out, Powell struck out, and Robinson struck out as Carlton strikes out the side, and he automatically gets a +1 now. So he is a +1 to his abilities. That means that he's going to be a -6, -5. Going into the fourth inning, Robinson is going to get a base hit. We'll say Salmon did a 5-4-3 double play. That will wipe out Brooks Robinson, and Hendricks will fly out to center. Now we're going into the fifth inning. Again, Carlton's max stamina is 5. We're through 4 innings. We don't need to worry about rolling yet. Davey Johnson is going to, we'll say, ground out to third. Bellinger is going to strike out, and Buford is going to draw a walk, and Blair will fly out to right. So now that we've gone through 5 innings, go into that 6th inning, we are now going to have to roll on the fatigue chart. So we're going to go ahead and take our 1 die, we're going to roll, and we get a 10. That 10 is going to be a -1. We're going to go ahead and track that. And now, because Carlton already accumulated a +1 for his poise off of the consecutive strikeouts, 3 strikeouts in an inning, he is going to go back down to normal now because he just got a -1. So now we're going to have Carlton get Powell at 6-3. Robinson will do a 4-3, and Brooks Robinson is going to strike out. So now we're going into the 7th inning, and we're going to try and keep Carlton in the game. It's going to be his 2nd inning past his max. We're going to roll 1 die. We roll a 5, and he is a -1. So another -1, and that is now going to put him below his natural ability. He will be a -4, -3. Now in the 7th, Salmon is going to ground out to short, Hendricks will ground out to second, and Johnson will fly out to center. That is 2 consecutive 1-2-3 innings, and we get to roll on his happy face poise chart. We're going to go ahead and roll 1 die. We roll a 10, and he does get an increase. So that increase will now put him back up to normal, which would be a -5, -4. But having been the end of the 8th inning, or sorry, end of the 7th inning, going into the 8th, we now have to roll on the 3rd inning past his max innings column on the fatigue chart. And you'll notice that increasingly amounts of negative results are going to start popping up on these columns. So we're going to go ahead and roll one die again. We roll 1, and Carlton is lucky we have no change. Now in the 8th inning, we're going to go ahead and say Bellinger struck out. Carlton is getting past those early runs and starting to shut down these Baltimore players. Buford is going to ground out to short, and Blair will pop out to the catcher. And now we have 3 consecutive 1, 2, 3 innings, and Carlton gets another +1. So now he is, if you look at the page here, he has 3 pluses and 2 negatives. That means he's a +1 on his overall ratings. He is up to a -6, -5. But now as we go for the complete game, Carlton is going to have to roll on his fatigue chart. We're looking at the 4th column now. We're going to go ahead and roll 1 die. We roll a 4, which is no change. Carlton is really plugging away here. And going into the 4th here, or sorry, going into the 9th, I'm going to say Powell reaches on a base hit. Robinson comes up and slugs a blast into the upper deck in left for a home run, a 2-run shot. And that is going to be, as you see, cumulatively, can't talk right now, 6 runs, which means we have to roll on the negative poise chart, the sad face. We roll a 10, which is a -1. And now I'll bring him back down to even, -5, -4. Still great natural ability, but perhaps we did leave him in an inning too long. We're going to go ahead and take him out, and we would bring in Gene Garber. Now you notice that I still rolled on him, on Carlton, and gave him the -1 even though he came out of the game. That's going to play into our end of the game fatigue tracker if you're playing a series or a modified season. So now we have Robinson coming up. We have Gene Garber now on the hill. What we don't know is that Philadelphia actually has 6 runs also, so we're going to end up going into extras here. And we're going to say that Robinson, Brooks Robinson it is, comes up. He'll get a single. We'll have a quick 4-6-3 double play. Wipes out Brooks Robinson, and Hendricks will strike out. So because we have 3 batters in that 1 inning, Gene Garber has gone past his 1 inning. We're going to go ahead and keep him in for the 10th because we don't know how long this game is going to go. And we're going to have to roll on his 1 inning past his max stamina because his stamina is 1. You'll notice that he has a 1 stamina, 4 endurance. This combination of numbers dictates how the results look on a fatigue chart. And his combination is not that great. He has a lot of -2s in there. So we're going to go ahead and roll 1 die. We roll a 6, we get a -1, and he is now down to a -3, -4. We're going to keep him in. Johnson is going to hit a base hit. Bellinger is going to draw a walk. We're going to put men on first and second. And Buford is going to come up and hit a 3-run bomb. Now that means we are going to have to do what? We're going to have to roll on that negative column, the sad face, on the poise chart because 3 runs have been scored. We roll a 9, which is no change. So we don't have to worry about him changing, but he is still a -1 on his pitching attributes due to going over 1 inning. Blair is going to strike out. Powell is going to line out to third, and Frank Robinson is going to fly out to right. So that would have been Garber. We're going to say that Philly was not able to put up any runs, and Baltimore ends up with the victory. Garber gets the loss. Carlton gets a no decision. So that is in-game fatigue. We're going to talk a little bit now about how we do the end game fatigue going into a series. This is our pitcher fatigue tracker, which will be used in series or modified seasons. We're going to go ahead and put Carlton up here, and we're going to do all all-star level fatigue You can modify this if you want to play out different eras. Obviously, pitchers pitched on less rest early on, probably in the teens through the 60s, and then 70s and 80s started going a little bit shorter, and then obviously present day pitchers are getting pulled in the fifth. All right, so we're going to say Carlton. We're going to add up all of his in-game fatigue to see if it is a negative or a positive, or even just an even number. He has 3 negative and 3 positive, so that equals 0. So he's not getting any in-game fatigue, but he did pitch 8 innings. He did not have 3 batters in the ninth, so we're not going to count that as an inning. So every 3 innings, you get a -1, or a day that you need to rest. So that's 2 days. You get 1 for the appearance, and then you add in anything that he would accumulate during the day. He did not get anything during his performance, so he needs 3 days rest before he's ready for his next start. For Garber, on the other hand, he pitched 2 innings. We don't have to worry about the 3-inning rule, but he does get 1 for the appearance. He did get 1 during the game, so we're going to do that. And he is going to need 2 days of rest before he's fully rested, before he can come into the game. Now, this does not mean that the pitcher cannot pitch in a game before he is fully rested. What that means is, if we were to bring in, there's no day off, the next game we're going to bring in Garber, he can come in, but he's going to come in with a -2 against his pitching ability. So he'll come in as a -2, -3 because he did not get fully rested. If there was a day off, Garber would now have a day rested off of the 2 that he needed, and he would have a -1 against his natural pitching ability, which means he would come into the game as a -3, -4. That -1 will count as in-game fatigue going into the following games accumulation for the fatigue tracker, so you would add that in. So that is in-game fatigue, a little bit of the end game fatigue going into the tracker. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave it below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have not already hit that thumbs up or followed, please do so. Leave a comment on the video. All those things help these videos gain traction. I do appreciate you spending some time with me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this answered some questions. Thanks again. Bye-bye.